A 1,700-player Taiwan Regional League event has just concluded. Today we'll quickly review each of the streamed matches, as well as the Day 1 metagame share. There were 5 archetypes between 10 to 16% of the metagame. Lost Zone Box, Lost Zone Giratina, Gardevoir EX, Lugia V-Star, and Miraidon EX Regieleki VMAX. Other notable archetypes were Arceus V-Star variants, Mew VMAX, 5% with Fusion Strike Energy and 5% without, and Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. 14% of decks were organized into the Other section. Now let's jump into round 1. Throughout this video, I'll refer to the player on the left as player 1, and the player on the right as player 2. Player 2 here is piloting a Lost Zone Toolbox deck, and starts with a Galarian Zapdos V, which is less than ideal. Lost Zone Toolbox decks use the Lost Zone cards released in Lost Origin to unlock powerful effects on Cramorant, Mirage Gate, and Sableye. These decks will often play several different attackers like Drapion V, Galarian Zapdos V, and Raikou V, which can all be great depending on the matchup. Thus, the deck is called a toolbox deck, since the goal is to select the key pieces to use for each individual match. They are able to deal with the poor start and establish a pretty great turn 1 board. We see that player 1 is also on a Lost Zone deck, but theirs is focused around Hisuian Goodra V-Star. Hisuian Goodra V-Star is very good at staying alive for a long time. It has a respectable 270 HP, but its real bulk comes from the Rolling Iron attack, which deals a massive 200 damage, and states that Goodra takes 80 less damage from attacks next turn. It also comes equipped with a V-Star power ability that fully heals all damage that is on Goodra. Player 2's Pokemon cannot break through the damage mitigation and healing, so player 1 is victorious in round 1 with Hisuian Goodra V-Star Comfey. Round 2 begins with player 2's board of Arceus V, Bidoof, and Charcadet. They are playing Fire and Lightning energies in their deck with attackers like Delphox V and Raikou V to support their Arceus V-Star in battle. Over to player 1, we have another Lost Zone Toolbox deck featuring Raikou V and Kyogre. Kyogre is used as a late-game sweeper to take multiple prizes at once. The mid-game develops into a battle between Arceus V-Star and Dragonite V. Player 2 has another Arceus V-Star and a Radiant Charizard in the back, while player 1 can realistically establish any of their attackers in a pinch thanks to Mirage Gate. The match goes into overtime at 1 prize to 1 prize. Player 1 is able to close it out due to Radiant Greninja hitting Radiant Charizard for weakness. Round 3 we see yet another Lost Zone Toolbox deck, but this time it is against Mew VMAX with a 1/1 Flying Pikachu VMAX, something that was used by Andrew Mahone at a North American event not too long ago. Player 2 has included Crystal Cave in their Mew VMAX deck, which proves useful against player 1's Sableye with the Lost Mine attack. Player 1 is not able to put together a win with Kyogre's Aqua Storm and loses to the consistent aggression of Mew VMAX. Round 4 is Arceus Goodra versus Lost Zone Giratina. Player 1 utilizes defensive cards like Lake Acuity and Radiant Gardevoir to make their Pokemon more resilient to attacks. Player 2's Giratina V-Star deck stumbles throughout the game and falls too far behind, allowing player 1 to take this win with Hisuian Goodra V-Star. Round 5 is similar to round 4, an Arceus deck versus a Lost Zone deck. Player 1 pilots a Lost Zone Toolbox, which includes Drapion V, something that might have helped round 3's Lost Zone player against Mew VMAX. Player 2 has brought Arceus with Giratina V-Star and Flying Pikachu VMAX, a deck with multiple evolution lines, but with that, multiple lines of play depending on the matchup. Player 1 never misses and takes 6 prizes rather quickly versus player 2's Arceus deck. In round 6, we have Gardevoir EX versus another Lost Zone Toolbox. There has been a Lost Zone engine in every streamed match so far, and I honestly can't be upset about it because the Lost Zone cards really encourage creative and skillful play, not to mention intuitive deck building. Player 1 has a great start and leaves Klefki in the active to shut down player 2's abilities. However, player 2 has an escape rope to send that Klefki to the bench, and this is why you're going to need 2 Klefkis if you really want this strategy to be effective. I was excited for this match, but unfortunately player 1 used Radiant Greninja's Concealed Cards ability while they had a Klefki in the active position. They did multiple more actions, including playing Judge to shuffle both players' hands before anyone caught this major gameplay error, and then the camera pans to the casters. I'm left to assume the Gardevoir player received a game loss due to an irreparable game state. Round 7, we have 2 players with records of 5 wins and 1 loss. This is the first streamed match that doesn't feature a Lost Zone deck. Player 1 is piloting a Rapid Strike deck including Blaziken VMAX, Zeraora V, and Empoleon V. Player 2 has built an Arceus V-Star variant which uses Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX as an aggressive backup attacker. Player 1's Rapid Strike deck never really takes off in this game, and Player 2 easily advances to a 6-1 record. Round 8 is something North American viewers are more than accustomed to, a Lugia V-Star mirror match. Both players are using single strike energy in their Lugia V-Star decks, but only player 1 includes Duraludon VMAX. Both players have an interesting choice of Radiant Pokemon. Player 1 chose Radiant Serena, and player 2 chose Radiant Gardevoir. Player 1 can only establish a single Archeops on the board, and player 2 takes advantage by knocking out the lone Archeops. The writing was on the walls from this point, and player 2 confidently takes the win. In round 9, we see Miraidon EX variants go head-to-head. These players are 7-1 and getting closer to the top 16. Player 2 seemed to have a less focused deck, including Flying Pikachu VMAX and multiple Raikou V. Player 1 sets up smoothly and never falters, eventually closing out the game with Miraidon EX's Photon Blaster attack. Round 10 is the first appearance of Palkia V-Star on the featured stream. Player 2 uses Palkia V-Star and Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX as attackers, Klefki to disrupt the opponent, and Bibarel to draw cards. Player 1 is piloting Lugia V-Star with Tyranitar V. Although player 1 can only get one Archeops into play, it is enough to overcome the dual Water-type legendaries player 2 has brought. The final round of Swiss prior to Top Cut features 2 Arceus V-Star decks, each at 8 wins and 2 losses. On the left, we have Arceus Duraludon, and on the right, Arceus Giratina Flying Pikachu. Arceus Duraludon experiences a clunky setup, while things are smooth for player 2. Path to the Peak nullifies Duraludon VMAX's ability, allowing player 2 to quickly take 6 prizes and advance to a record of 9 wins and 2 losses. We are finally moving on to the top 16. But before that, I want to remind you to use PokemonCard.io for deck building, forums, and news. Use my code CELIO for 5% off at PoTownStore.com when shopping for PTCGO codes, and subscribe to my channel for more Pokemon TCG content like this. On the left, we have Arceus Giratina with a record of 9-2, and on the right, Gardevoir EX, undefeated with 11 wins and 0 losses. Player 2 sets up a massive Zacian V with 8 Psychic Energy attached to take out player 1's full health Arceus V-Star in one hit. Player 2 establishes another Pokemon with 8 energy on it the following turn, but this time it is the Shining Arcana Gardevoir. Gardevoir EX's ability allows player 2 to have enough energy to do anything they want, and with that they are able to stay undefeated and move into top 8 with a record of 12 wins and 0 losses. Moving into top 8, the featured match is Lost Zone Toolbox vs Mew VMAX Flying Pikachu, who we saw on stream earlier. Note that they stopped updating wins and losses once the tournament moved to a single elimination top 16, so 9-2 is what both of these players finished with after 11 rounds of Swiss, but they also both won their first round of top 16 to get here. Both players are able to establish solid board states in this match. Player 1 pokes damage at both Flying Pikachu VMAX and Genesect V, while player 2 is consistently taking 1 prize card a turn. The Max Balloon attack can be scary since it prevents all damage done to Flying Pikachu VMAX by basic Pokemon next turn, but player 1 has some options to get around that, like Escape Rope and Sableye Lost Mine attack. Player 1 is able to get 10 cards into their Lost Zone, and use Lost Mine to knock out player 2's damaged Genesect V on the bench. Player 2 can continue attacking and take 1 prize card each turn, but realizes player 1 will win the prize trade with their single prize Pokemon as long as they can chain attacks. Sableye is the MVP in this game and takes the final prize cards by knocking out player 2's Flying Pikachu VMAX. Top 4 is Lost Zone Box vs Lost Zone Box, and if you're interested in learning more about this mirror match, I suggest checking out the full match at the link I've left in the description. Essentially, both players race to 10 Lost Zone cards so they can begin using Sableye's Lost Mine, which is often the most efficient attack to use in the mirror match. Player 1 is able to knock out low HP Pokemon like Comfey and Manaphy faster than player 2 can deal with, and wins the match with Cramorant's Spit Innocently attack taking the final prize card. We saw so much Lost Zone over the course of this stream, and we'll be ending the stream with it as well. Player 1 has a far better start than player 2, and reaches 12 cards in the Lost Zone, while the opponent only has 2. This is a huge deficit and gives player 1 all the advantage. Player 2 barely has any fight to put up and ends up conceding minutes into the game. Lost Zone Toolbox placed first and second at this massive event, with Gardevoir EX, Lugia V-Star, and Arceus decks also all doing very well. I'll leave a link in the description where you can find more information on the standings and deck lists from this event. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.